Hi everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Daniel Pinault. I'm a longtime Microsoft Access. Now they've switched it to Office App MVP. So today I thought I'd make a short video, just a little bit on what is the current status, anything that's new with Access that's happened in the last few months, and just touch base a little bit as to where we are today. So the first thing I think we should highlight, that I've been floored that Microsoft hasn't highlighted themselves, was the fact that, as you can see here, earlier in October, I created a post regarding the fact that we actually have a new Microsoft Access Product Manager, Program Manager. I don't know what the right title is. Depending on which video you watch, there seems to be different titles. Historically, we always call them project managers, but then I heard her mention product manager, so I'm not quite sure. But the person in charge now has changed once again. Some of you may remember names like Michael Barr, Ibo Kwandash, Michael Aldridge. These are all the predecessors, and several before that as well. And now Linda has taken over the realms. How do I know this? Well, Maria Barnes was kind enough to share a link to a YouTube video. And if you watch it, I have a link here, you'll see on the blog. Half of it is all about accessibility. You can watch it if you want. Most of accessibility, in my experience, has always come down to just plain and simple common sense. There are tools, if you watch it, that Linda mentions, that if you really want to get into it and want to start, having, I guess, validation that you're doing a good job, you can use them. But truly, a lot of this is plain and simple common sense. And I even had an article about some of the do's and don'ts about designing anything in reality. It's not just an Access database. This can go to Excel, Word, designing a website. The same fundamentals apply across the board. So anyway, she spends half the presentation on that. And then it's about midway through the video that she actually introduces herself as the new program product manager. If you jump to that, I have it in it around the 30-minute mark. This is when this begins, and that's where I suggest people just jump to. And she goes over a couple things, explaining she wears several hats. So she isn't dedicated to Microsoft Access solely. She has 4 hats, I believe. So Access is only going to get about 25% of her time. She also is the first one to explicitly cover the members of her dev team, and she mentions there's 6 of them. So she mentions her boss, even though that isn't in the number, and then the 6 of them. So there's herself, Linda, then there's Dale Rector, who's the engineering manager, and then 4 engineers. Now everyone knows Shane Groff. We used to have Joe, who amongst other things developed the new web browser control. He has since left. And then if you look at different videos taken over time, I've left links, you end up finding that there's Sachin, Courtney, and also Tushar. She mentions in this a couple of the priorities, things that they're looking at, one of which she mentioned specifically was that they are working on a new SQL editor. So that's just quickly bringing up to speed. She also mentions that they are actively interacting with the Outlook team regarding the latest debacle that the new Outlook won't support VBA. So just that's a quick overview. We have a new program manager, the team members, things like that. Then if we move over, there was a recent video in which they were talking about the future of Access. You can watch it. The link is here. Juan covers some excellent points regarding the simple fact that, Access is embedded everywhere. It's not going away tomorrow. I'm not arguing any of that. At the same time, I'm just going to say, like with anything else in life, Microsoft has pulled the rug out from under different software over the years without prior notice. So I'm not saying it's happening with Access. But as much as anyone can say that Access is here for the long haul, and it has, let's be serious, over 30 years, it could just as easily disappear tomorrow. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying, like with everything else, it's his personal opinion. Everyone has their own. There are no announcements, and you're going to see later that even the program manager has stipulated that Access is under official development. So according to the Access team, there is absolutely no validity. Access is here for the long run, just like Juan said. One thing I am going to correct Juan on, take issue with, is he specifically mentions in it that, he speaks about a little bit about web apps, developing web applications, something I do myself with PHP amongst other things. And he says that, they can't work with Interact. I can't remember how he said it exactly, but basically they couldn't work with Office documents. And I've got to say that is completely false. I have, for instance, an application that is used by one of my best clients, and this tool creates Excel, creates Word documents, it edits them in certain cases. I have it creating emails for Outlook desktop and add attachments to those emails before they're sent off. So to say that web applications can't work with Office documents is totally, I'm sorry, but it's BS. And in my experience, most of the time when I've heard this, when I've been involved in different projects where developers say this, it's a lot of times it's because they're trying to direct clients to a predetermined path, right? A lot of developers have in their toolbox these sets of skills, these sets of solutions that they want to provide. So they're going to direct people to that to make sure that at the end of the day, they're selling their product. So anyway, I'm not saying that's what Juan was doing. I'm just saying that in a lot of cases, historically, in my experience, this is what happens. People say things can't be done because they're trying to push people down a specific path. So just be aware that, for instance, PHP can definitely work with Office documents. And like everything in life, you have to weigh pros and cons of each. So Access is exceptional at lots of things, but it has its weaknesses. Just as much as web applications excel at many things, but have major weaknesses too. So you have to evaluate both against the requirements of your project. Now back to the subject was Access as a whole. You'll see later in that same video, so once we get past Juan's, explaining Access, why in his opinion it's here to stay, then we get at the 32-minute mark, we get some contributions from the Microsoft Access development team themselves. So you'll see here Dale Rector at 32 minutes, he mentions that they're currently working on things like modern charting. So they're going to be improving the charting engine, new charts, new properties that we'll be able to control. Once again, he mentions what Linda said, a new SQL editor. They're going to continue working on Dataverse. And they're going to be working on this whole fact that right now Access is limited to a maximum of 22 inches, right? When you create forms and reports, and they're going to try to remove that. So then I guess it's going to become responsive to whatever size screen you have. Courtney then at the 35-minute mark goes on saying that something they've been working on is opening queries directly in SQL view. So you won't go through necessarily the query by example. You'll be able to switch directly into the SQL view. And there are reasons for that. It can be very useful in certain specific cases. And obviously they're going to continue their work on addressing bugs. So, between this video and the other video with the project manager, you now have a really good idea of the direction that Microsoft Access is taking in the near future. Many of these points are things that used to be on the roadmap going back 2, 3, 4 years. I'm not even quite sure anymore. And now we're starting to see, I guess, some movement on it. So these are things, a lot of us have been waiting for, like a new SQL editor. People have been asking for that for, I don't know, 15, 20 years maybe. So long overdue. Then I'm going to bring up one of the more recent things that was brought up to me is the simple fact, I should also shout out, once again, brought up to me by who? By Maria Barnes. She's a source of information recently. And that Microsoft now is directing even MVPs to join these research groups, these research panels, and that they're going to take the input from these research panels to basically, I guess, help them guide in the direction they're going to take for future development. I always say I take this stuff with a lot of a grain of salt. You know, we used to have user voice. They were supposed to use that for how they shaped Office, and that got destroyed and thrown in the garbage. Then they came out with a feedback portal, and people have been using it, and now all of a sudden they seem to have switched that no, we're using the research panels. What's the right way to provide feedback? What's the right way to be heard? I don't know anymore. Will this be listened to any more than user voice was? I really don't know anymore. They seem to be all over the place. I can tell you the feedback portal is just a mess and isn't maintained, so doesn't give me much confidence that it's being actually looked at in any serious manner. So will this be any different? I don't know. But for those of you that want to try to chime in the hopes that maybe one of your ideas might be listened to and that you can contribute in some constructive manner, well, you may want to check this out. The link is there on the page. At the same time that I say all of this, they mention several elements that they're working on. You know, the modern charting, that's great. The charting is a disaster as far as I'm concerned, and needs a lot of work. And a new SQL editor, great, kudos to them. Bugs, obviously, Microsoft MS 365 has been a disaster in my experience for stability and bugs. So anything they can keep working on those is great, is definitely in the direction we need to be seeing. But I'm going to also pull out there that, I was writing this article here on constraints and was trying to get information about a property. As you can see here, the property, check constraints. And I couldn't even get help on a basic property. Okay, they shifted us over to this online help several years ago, and this help, in my view, is disastrous compared to the old help that you used to have on your computer that used to be much better. And you go in there and you're not getting what you need as help on something as basic as a basic property, a fundamental property. And you get directed to bogus pages. You get directed to stuff that has nothing to do with it. Like, this is a table def, and I was directed at one point to the query def properties. It just makes no sense. And you finally get to the table def property, and these are the properties they show as available, and you'll see that what I'm looking for, check constraints, isn't there. So completely outdated documentation. And then you start doing other digging, and there's missing several other properties. And I stop here because I could just keep going on and on and on. So, Microsoft, you need to do a lot better. You want us to use your tools. You want us to develop nifty things, promote your products. Well, then when you're doing updates and providing new features, you need to document those features. It's fundamental to any product. Documentation should be front and center before racing out there and working on things that, like Dataverse, that no one ever asked for. We already had Azure. And if you look at my blog, you'll see my experience with Dataverse was an implosion, as an understatement. Absolutely everything that could go wrong went wrong. So I do hope they continue working on it, and that isn't the final product. But I'm just saying, if you're going to come out with new products, and let's use Dataverse well, then you need to have the documentation to support it. I went out to get help when I was trying to do this work on Dataverse. The Access team couldn't help me. Microsoft support couldn't help me. No one could help me. I went on the forum for Power Platform. No one could answer any of my questions. And these were basic questions about deployment and how to set up accounts and things like that to be able to use Dataverse. They were nothing out of the ordinary or, very complicated. These were very basic level how-to. And no one could help me. So if you're going to come out with new products, new features, you need to document them. And realistically today, we should be not only seeing documentations, but tutorial videos. Like, this is the day we're living in now. We should be outright seeing videos left, right, and center, how to implement, for instance, Dataverse. This is a great place that we should be seeing several video series on how to set them up, how to import, export, update, create accounts, create testing, production, all of this stuff. None of it exists. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there, but I just want to say, yes, Microsoft is doing lots of improvement, or trying to do lots of improvements, but at the same time, I have to point out we still have major faults, and on basic stuff such as documentation. And not just documentation, but just using the F1 to get help, being directed to completely bogus crap. You know, they can't even connect keywords with the right page. Like this stuff should not be happening, and it shows a lack of validation, internal validation for their own tools. Okay, enough staying on the negative, because there was positive. Let's keep focused on that. That there are some advancements hopefully coming in the somewhat near future. Gonna then bring you to two other things. Not directly access related, but Mike Wolf recently had an article. I created a video to support it and get it out there even more. But it's been officially announced on Microsoft pages that VBScript is going away. They're going to be retiring it. It's going to be done in a phase, so they're going to phase it out where it's a feature on demand, so you can still activate it, but it's not there by default, but you'll have that option. And at a certain point, it's just going to be gone. So I say that because as an Access developer, I use VBScript extensively. It's actually what I use to start up all of my databases, copy it locally, then launch it, things like that, does other validations. Trusted location, things like that. So losing VBScript from a developer standpoint can be huge. So I gotta, kudos to Mike for spotting this in the wild and sharing it with us, because it can have huge ramifications for even us Access developers and any IT. I know when I worked as an IT admin, we used VBScripts extensively in startup scripts for profiles and things like that. So I'm just gonna say, you share this out there, because this is something that it is coming. It's not one of these things that we're not sure of. It is factual. I have a link here where you can click on it if you want, and you'll see that Microsoft here, VBScript, it's changed. They've added more stuff. But right here, VBScript is being deprecated. Okay, so it's been announced. It's official. It's on the Microsoft site. There's no denying this. It's coming. Per the usual, we don't know exactly in what time frame, but prepare yourselves. Start planning today. If you use VBScript for deploying and things like that, now's the time to be planning for what are you going to do to replace it. Lastly, this is another video I made. I had an article as well about the end of VBA, and some MVPs have taken strong point against this, been somewhat angry at me for publishing it. But the reality is the reality. It's come down the pipes that Microsoft Office Outlook team is creating a new Outlook. And they released a video in which, and there's also a web page where you can go and check out some of the things that they're going to include and not include. And specifically, they're not including COM add-ins, COM automation. Therefore, that means that the new Outlook won't have VBA. We won't be able to automate it using VBA. So you think of something integrated into Access, such as send objects. Well, that technically won't work today. I'm sure the Access team is scrambling now to find some workaround, but currently, as the discussion is, it technically wouldn't work. And then people such as myself that have developed other functions for creating contacts, sending emails, controlling the structure of folders in Outlook, processing incoming, outgoing emails, all of this stuff won't work either. We're losing that entire layer to be able to automate and interact with Outlook. I just say, if Outlook is going to phase out VBA, then, there could be other surprises down the road with other Office applications. Nothing's been said. The only one that we know formally is Outlook. So let's be clear on that. But if one team has taken that route, there's no reason that it may not happen to others. And then we also, like I said previously, we're seeing VBScript being retired. So, the certain alarm bells are somewhat going off in my head. Now, Access is somewhat the black sheep of the family, right? We don't have a web version of Access. So it's not like the Outlook. Okay, they're ahead of the game here. Well, ahead. Excel has a web version. Outlook has theirs. Word, PowerPoint. Access really is the black sheep. We're the ones that don't. So if ever VBA was going to disappear from other ones, it's obviously going to be the ones that already have web applications. And then they're going to be able to embrace JavaScript, jQuery, whatever other language they want of the web as their automation tool. So I was just saying this because it is factual. Outlook is getting rid of it. I don't know if the Access team is going to manage to change their mind. I personally think it's doubtful. But be aware that they're, coming down. It's not going to happen tomorrow. People are going to have to adopt the new Outlook and things like that. But it is coming down the path where we are going to be faced one day where we're going to have Outlook out there in the wild that doesn't support VBA. And it's going to start off with a select few, and then it's going to slowly expand as old versions get retired and they get replaced with the new one. It's just the way things happen. So early adopters may cause you as a developer some serious pain and headaches. So the objective of this whole video wasn't to say that we're doomed. It's to give you a heads up. This is coming. Start thinking about it now before you're faced with this reality and you have no alternative plan ready. Now's the time to be thinking about this. How can we go about it? What can we do? Is it time to ditch Outlook? Is it time to ditch Office? Those are choices you have to make with your clients based on your needs. But this is another thing that is coming, and maybe one day we're going to see it happen in other applications. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but this is where we are with Outlook, so don't be surprised if we see it in other applications down the road. What floored me with this whole thing even more was how the Access team, and I guess other teams, apparently had no clue. So Outlook Office makes these drastic changes and they're not even internally talking with one another, which floors me. So Linda mentioned that now she was in contact, and I think Dale Rector, and anyway, so, and other teams as well have gotten on board to talk to the Outlook team, but it just floors me how internally at Microsoft, they go about abolishing an entire programming language on an major Office application, and they didn't even talk and consult with other dev teams. Says a lot about the internal management of Office per se, and how independent each team seems to be from one another. Anyway, so that basically is where we stand today. VBA is going away in Outlook, and I always question, will we see it go away elsewhere? Time will tell. VBScript is going to be a thing of the past. It's just a question of when, so prepare for that one. What can I say? Microsoft, the Access team, you guys can do a lot better. It's nice to have new features, but sometimes getting back to the basics of simple documentation and providing us with proper tools and examples would go a long way to helping developers more than certain other nifty features, shall we say. I'm using the word feature very carefully here. Let's clean up the documentation. It would be a nice thing to do. Like I mentioned here, you want to be heard. They have now research panels. Sign yourselves up if you want to give your input, if you think that will do any good. Here's some of what's coming down the pipes if you're interested. Basically these guys here: modern charting, SQL editor, Dataverse, new increased for larger monitors, the SQL view directly, and let's not forget we have a new project manager. Still floored that they didn't even make a blog post about this to welcome her to the team, to the community. That's one thing I've been disappointed, is how the Microsoft Access blog has really just turned into a posting of updates and very little other content. Anyway, I thought the blog was going to be used for much more than it is, just as much as the roadmap, because if we check the roadmap, unless something's changed, yeah, they're working on the large address aware in the modern web browser, which has been out now for months. So, this once again is behind, they've made announcements publicly that this is all coming, and yet none of it's on the roadmap. There's major disconnects. And if you look at the blog, the Access blog, all you're going to see here, and what a slow site the tech community site is, but it's just about fixes, updates and fixes, updates and fixes, updates and fixes. That's all it is. There's no, many new features aren't even here. Nothing about a new project manager, product manager. They're missing the boat once again on publicizing, getting PR, and giving us official Microsoft links that we can link to rather than, you know, I heard on this website or I heard in this video. Having the official, you know, releases adds a lot of credibility to what we do when we create blog posts and videos like this. And they're completely missing the boat per the usual. But anyway, I will leave it there. That's basically my update of where we stand today with Access. There are some nice things possibly coming down the road. I don't know in what delay. Nothing's on the roadmap. So your guess is as good as mine when any of this will be coming. Will it be next month? Will it be in another 4 years? I don't know. But this is apparently what they're working on. And as usual, you know, we have to welcome Linda to the team and hope that she can, you know, get some traction and move things forward. I know Dale has been doing this now in the back for quite some time. I am assuming he's somewhat responsible for when Dataverse came out and some of the other, like the web browser control. So, you know, there were people behind the scenes already, you know, making the boat stay afloat. But now we have someone, a new captain, and hopefully she can bring us to port. Let's stop there for today. I've rambled on for long enough. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great day. And we will see you in the next video. If you don't mind, please smash that like and subscribe buttons. It's the only way that I can keep doing this. And we will see you in the next one. Take care, guys.